Well, good evening, this is Hound Dog Steve wishing you a very pleasant evening. And I came across this article the other day. It's by a group called Prep Group, and 25 skills that are going to be in demand if we are all thrown back on our own resources. When people talk about trading after the apocalypse, usually they start discussing whether you're better off stockpiling extra ammunition or some surplus food. These are both great trade assets for a while. Eventually they'll run out though, and then what? The guy who's been bringing you fresh eggs every day isn't going to keep doing it when you've run out of shells for his 12 gauge. Trading surplus supplies might be essential from time to time, but it's never going to be a long-term solution because in the end your supplies will be gone. How about gold and silver? Some preppers have a touching belief that they'll be highly prized after society falls apart. I'm not so sure. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't be too keen to trade a handful of rifle bullets or a sack of flour for something that's basically going to sit around looking shiny. Now, if you want a real trade asset, you can't beat skills. Once you've learned a skill, you have an inexhaustible supply of it. If you fix someone's generator today in exchange for a bag of apples from his tree, you can get more apples by fixing it again tomorrow. Years from now, you can still be fixing his generator every time it goes wrong and trading your time for his surplus fruit unless he decides you're either not so good at fixing generators or a bit too fond of his apples. Skills won't run out, and in a prolonged emergency that makes them far more valuable for trade than anything else. Here are 25 skills that are going to be in demand if we're all thrown back on our own resources. Some of them will be valuable right away, others will kick in when hoarded goods start running out. Learning all 25 of them is probably beyond most of us, but if you get pretty good at 3 or 4, you should be able to barter your work for anything you need after the apocalypse. And this is quite a timely piece because, as you can see, our world has changed and will continue to change in the new way of doing business, and we really don't know what that's going to look like. However, one thing we can be certain on is that we will be relying on ourselves and trying to be a lot more sustainable. So here is number 1, vehicle maintenance. Being able to keep cars on the road is going to be a vital skill. With society in disarray, most regular workshops will be closed. If you have a reputation as someone who can keep engines running, that's going to be a valuable skill. And you'll be able to fix generators and pumps too. And these small engines are going to be the key. So it'll be the old style, not computer engines and chips and so on and so forth. All that will be handy, but it'll be your smaller rototillers, lawnmowers, generators, that kind of stuff that people will be using around their property. Number 2, electrics. If the power grid stays down for a while, people are going to start looking for alternative sources of electricity. It might be a solar array, a generator, or wind turbine. In any case, it's going to need to be wired up. That can be difficult and even dangerous. If you know how to adapt and extend house wiring, people will pay for that skill. 3, electronics. If people have electricity, they're going to want gadgets that use it, but eventually they're going to go wrong. You probably aren't going to be able to make a new microprocessor, but some basic soldering skills can fix a surprising number of faulty appliances. The owners will be pleased. And of course you'll be able to scab things out of other pieces of equipment, and you'll be able to gain your own supply and spare list, which is very important. The things that you take apart, if you can't fix them, break them down for parts and put them into storage. This will be very, very important when we can no longer import all of these goods from other countries. 4, plumbing. When plumbing goes wrong, things can get pretty unpleasant in a hurry. That's why everyone's immediate reaction is to call a plumber. But what if the world as we know it has ended and the plumber isn't answering the phone? If you can help people out with that, they'll be glad to help you out in some other way. And we're not just talking washrooms and septic systems, we're talking piping, water, wells, all kinds of things to get water into your house, maybe without the use of power. 5, medicine. Life is dangerous when society collapses. Disease and injury will be more common, and the consequences of not treating them are more severe. Any assistance you can give, from basic first aid to advanced surgical skills, will make you a valuable asset to the community. And even basic medicine those kind of first aid skills, because accidents do happen, and it may not be convenient just to rush off to the hospital. Maybe you're on a hunt or away from home or foraging or so on and so forth, and you need to know what to do in an emergency. 6. Amateur radio. Most of the communications we rely on aren't going to survive a major social collapse. Without people to run its infrastructure, cell phones and the internet will go down in minutes. Landline phones, the ones that haven't switched over to voice-over internet protocols, might last hours or even a couple of days. If you have the skills to use radios, especially CB or ham radio, that's going to be a skill lots of people will want access to. Yes, you will start a home base, and everyone will have handheld radios so you can stay in communication with each other in case you have to basically protect your settlement area. 7. Mending clothes. Nowadays, if our clothes get damaged, we just throw them away and buy new ones. Our ancestors, even a couple of generations ago, fixed them instead. If you can repair rips, replace broken zippers, and even make alterations for size, you're not likely to run out of customers willing to trade. 8. Foraging. There's a lot of food out there if you know what to look for in the form of edible fruits, berries, leaves, fungi, and other plants. The problem is, if you don't know what to look for, you can get into a lot of trouble. Mistaking a death cap for a mushroom is a mistake you'll only make once. If you have the right skills, you can either teach them to others or trade part of what you collect. 9. Hunting. Not everyone has the skills or equipment to harvest their own meat. If you do, you have a valuable source of food that you can trade for other things you need. And just a little pointer here, there's lots of this stuff on YouTube. So fish around for catch and cook. They have everything from wild meat to domesticated meat, everything you need to know to prepare, butcher, shoot, and cook your own food from the wild. 10. Fishing. If you're elderly or infirm and can't do more physical jobs, you can still build up a tradable food surplus with a fishing pole and some bait. And of course around here where I am, lots of lakes, lots of fish. And learning how to dry that fish to preserve it is a very important skill that goes along with that. And so as you go through this list, think of the ones that you can just go on the internet. I mean, it won't take you 10 or 15 minutes to find out the ways of preserving fish, either by salting, by drying, making jerky, this kind of stuff, smoking, freezing if you get your catch in winter. All of these things go along with the whole concept of fishing. They're part of the whole deal and very well worth learning. 11. Crop growing. Hey, that's me. Not too long ago, most families had their own vegetable garden. That's a skill most of us have lost. If you still have it, it's a valuable asset. Grow more than you need and trade the surplus, or look after people's plots for them in exchange for a share of the crop. 12. Animal husbandry. Some livestock is a valuable asset, but it takes skill to keep it alive and productive. If you're good at looking after animals, you can help out people who don't have your experience. The most efficient way to do this is to keep the animals with your own and give them their share of the milk, meat, or other products. 13. Butchery. Yes, this is part of keeping livestock many people hate. It's easy to buy Percy the pig as an investment in your future self-sufficiency, but a lot harder to whack him on the head with a hammer and chop him up. If you can do that for them, they'll be happy to reward you with a few choice cuts. 14. Canning. A lot of people will manage to find or grow food, with or without your help, but won't have the skills they need to store it safely. If you're a canning expert, you can make yourself useful by processing their surplus so they can build up stockpiles for the winter, maybe trading your skills for a share of their crop. And that also includes drying for storage and also making tinctures and using alcohol to preserve. 15. Carpentry. It's amazing what you can make with some timber, a few basic tools and a bit of talent at woodworking. A good carpenter can put together anything from a storage box to a serviceable timber frame home. In other words, lots of things people will need and be happy to trade for. 16. Blacksmithing. This is a really rare skill nowadays, but it's going to be in huge demand if the economy implodes. There are still a lot of horses around and they need shoes, but a good smith can make a lot more than horseshoes. 17. Gunsmithing. Weapons are going to be essential when the SHTF, but they're complex things and sometimes they go wrong. Any good shooter can clear a stoppage, but what about repairing a broken trigger mechanism or recrowning a barrel? Gunsmithing skills are pretty rare and very valuable. 18. Reloading. There's a lot of ammunition in the USA, but it won't last forever. When stocks start to run low, a lot of people will be willing to trade for more. If they can bring you their spent brass and have it remanufactured into ammunition, that's a very valuable skill to have. And so stockpiling things like casings, gunpowder, there are small reloading kits that you can buy at your local gun store. Very, very, very important to have those because they will be gone because of the demand for those kind of items. 19. Fletching. In a sustained collapse, stocks of modern weapons and ammunition will eventually be gone. To help them last as long as possible and replace them when they're exhausted, bows make a viable hunting and even defensive weapon. If you can make arrows, and that's what fletching is, you'll find plenty of people willing to trade for them. 20. Soap making. This is fairly simple actually. Again, there are plenty of videos on YouTube on how to do this. Did you remember to stockpile a large supply of soap? Probably not. But that doesn't matter. You know how to make it using lye and any handy fats. Do you think everyone else in the neighborhood remembered to stockpile soap? Unlikely, but never mind. They can trade with you for the surplus you make. And this is, as I say, very, very easy to do and a much needed commodity. 21. Candle making, another great commodity. A year or two into a major collapse, electric light will be a lot less common than it is now. Help your neighbours keep the darkness at bay by trading homemade candles. They're a lot brighter and safer than a crude oil lamp. And also you can use beeswax. So harvesting beeswax is another way to make candles. 22. Leather working. If you know how to make things from leather, you'll never be short of work. Everything from shoe repairs to making new tack for horses will be in demand. 23. Teaching. Civilization might have collapsed, but you can help rebuild it by passing on the knowledge the next generation will need. You don't have to be a qualified teacher, but if you have knowledge and the enthusiasm to pass it on, you can turn that to your advantage. 24. Playing an instrument. No matter how bad things get, people need entertainment. In fact, when it's really bad, entertainment is more valuable than ever. If you can play a musical instrument, you can do a lot to boost morale, and human nature means people will want to show their gratitude. And my grandfather actually taught himself to play the piano during the Great Depression in 1929, and that's how they supported the family. He played in bars and pubs, and he put a tin can on top of the piano, and they had sing-songs around the piano to lift their spirits through those difficult times, and that will come back, whether it's a piano or a guitar, some way of bringing joy into people's lives. 25. Spiritual comfort. If you're good at choosing an uplifting piece of scripture or making an inspirational speech, that can be a valuable skill. It might not be essential to life, but it can make people feel a lot happier about their situation. In a major emergency, death is a real possibility, for example, and if you can give someone a proper send-off, their loved ones will cope better. So bear this in mind and try and learn 1, 2, 3 or more of these skills, and they will stand you in good stead through the difficult times ahead. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment and subscribe below. And in the meantime, this is Hound Dog Steve wishing you a very pleasant evening, and we'll talk very, very shortly. Take care now. Bye.